Andy Mitten, good morning to you.
It's not really good morning, is it? But I'll say good morning and wish you well.
Well, so where to begin? Let's start with the press conference and the madness of that. There was always a sense in Mourinho's press conferences that even when he was like seemingly out of control, that it was some part of orchestrated master plan, that he actually knew what he was doing and there was deflection. But that didn't seem like he was in control. That seemed like it seemed like ranting, to be honest.
Yeah, he's struggling. His press conferences have always been very unpredictable. And often when he's been successful, they've worked in his favour. I can remember very clearly when his Real Madrid team knocked Manchester United out of the Champions League in 2013. And he was very magnanimous, saying the best team lost here tonight. But it's easy to be magnanimous when you've just won a football game. He's just lost the second of the three opening Premier League games. United have not lost two of their opening three since 1992-93. Of course, he went on to win the league that year for the first time in 26 years. I think you'll struggle to find a Manchester United fan who thinks they're going to win the league this year. The mood is very, very flat, and results are making it this way. I've done the full pre-season. I've been at the last 8 matches, and I've seen the press conferences. I was at Brighton last week, and he's become more... He's downbeat. He doesn't look happy. He's clearly not happy because his team are not doing what he's asking them to do. But I don't think he helped himself pre-season. He had a chance pre-season when football fans are naturally optimistic to set the tone, which trickles down from the manager. You're the most important person at the club. And right from the start, he was miserable. Now, he's got his reasons for being miserable because he wasn't getting the players in. But he could have made an early rallying call to get the fans behind him. He really could have done. And I told him last Sunday at Brighton, I spoke to him before the game, I said, the fans are behind you, you know. Those people behind the goal are behind you, and you will hear that today. Not on about everybody online around the world going absolutely mad. I'm on about the match-going fans. And in the first 15 minutes, before it fell apart at Brighton, those fans were behind him. The problem is the more games that the team lose, that affects his popularity. So going into 2018, he was pretty much the unanimous choice for Manchester United fans. That Sevilla defeat in February, that hammered him. The end of the season was very flat. The football was poor. And the start of this season has been very poor as well. So more people will get on his case. He's feeling the pressure. He's got a big problem called Pep Guardiola, who lives a mile away from him. And it's all adding up. And he's only human. He's being asked to do something that he can't do.
Did I deserve to lose that game 3-0 last night, Andy?
I take his point that, United were dreadful at Brighton. Dreadful. Against Tottenham in the first half, I thought the team actually played well. The problem is, one, the chances, they were struggling to get them on target. I mean, it was until the 34th minute that Paul Pogba had a pretty lame shot on target. Prior to that, you had Lukaku had a very good chance to score. You've got to be putting chances away at the top level. And a concern and a problem is when Manchester United now go behind, there is a lack of response. We saw it at Brighton when you had lots of time to play well. United have still got very good players. For all the problems going on, there's a lot of very talented players still at that football club. And those 2 quick Tottenham goals, bang, it just knocked the stuff in. And what little confidence there seems to be out of the players. The crowd tried the best. They tried to get behind the team. They were still behind the manager. They're probably still behind the manager. But there are problems there. United have got 3 points from the first 9. They've conceded 7 goals. And as that game was ending last night, I tried to work out when was the last time this club conceded more than 7 goals in the first 3 matches. And I had to go back to 1969 when the club was in disarray because Sir Matt Busby was coming to the end of his time. And if I look deeply into it, I'm sure I'll find more parallels there.
What happens now? Because there's been he's basically tried all of his centre-back partnerships at this point, and that seemed a pointed team selection last night. And every time he picks a centre-back pairing now, it seems like there's some pointed dig at Woodward and the refusal to back him to buy central defenders over the course of the summer. So what is the way out of this, really, where Mourinho somehow fixes the team at least until Christmas, and at that point maybe they can buy, or gets through the season? It's beginning to... I can't see a way that Mourinho lasts the season from here.
It was a pointed selection. I think it was also a sensible one because the players who performed poorly at Brighton were dropped, mainly. The people who were at fault were dropped or put onto the substitutes bench. Victor Lindelof came back onto the pitch because of an injury. He's having a terrible time at the moment. His confidence looks so shot that he doesn't look capable of playing for Manchester United. What is the way out of this? Well, I still think there are a lot of very good players there. This is a team who finished second in the Premier League last year. They didn't finish 14th, but they're not playing for their manager. And that is a problem. And people say to me, when's he going to last? He's going to be gone in a month, isn't he? He's going to be gone in 2 months. I don't know the answer. I don't think that he knows the answer. I think that the club, if you ask Ed Woodward now, he doesn't want to sack Jose Mourinho. And even a lot of Manchester United fans, they will still back him, partly because it's very early, partly because there's no obvious plan B at the moment. Who do you bring in now? There's the fanciful choices, Zinedine Zidane. I spoke to people at Madrid on Sunday night. I watched Real Madrid on Sunday night, and people who know Zidane, they don't know anything about that link. He doesn't speak English. If you were Zidane and you just won 3 consecutive European Cups, the last thing I'd want to do is walk into Manchester United. But then maybe would see that as a challenge. But I'm getting well ahead of myself here. At this moment, I don't think there's any intention from the club to sack Jose Mourinho.
I'm not sure if you saw it last night, Andy, but beIN Sports were at it again. Andy Gray suggested Roberto Martinez should come in and manage Manchester United.
I don't think Andy Gray's in touch with what's going on like he was. I think it's easy to sit out there in Qatar and talk about your old mates and say who you think would be good. I mean, Martinez, I do actually respect him. I wrote a big piece about him in the summer. I knew him. My uncle was his kitman at Wigan, so I knew what was going on there and what a sharp operator he was. And I spoke to his assistant manager. I spoke to people who work with him very closely, and he's done very well with Belgium. But I don't think there's any clamour for Roberto Martinez to come in to manage at Manchester United, even though he still lives in Greater Manchester. He's rebuilding his reputation, and I think that he damaged it a lot at Everton. He was very, very unpopular by the time that he left Everton. I'm not sure that he's top level.
Isn't the real problem here that Ed Woodward is making football decisions and is briefing at various stages about why he's making those decisions directly to journalists, and that is not a power system within a football club that we've seen work anywhere else, where the finance guy makes football decisions and seems to be the ultimate arbiter of transfer policy?
That is a problem. You're absolutely right. I know an agent who's got some very high profile players, and he met Manchester United and Manchester City in March of this year when both clubs were talking about their summer transfer targets. And he said United were so far behind City in terms of the clarity in decision making and strategy that the two clubs had going forward. United were like, we think this Galactico system is the one which wins European Cups. If you've got 5 Galacticos, then you're going to win the European Cup. And I thought, where is this coming from? Because it's not a Mourinho comment at all. And yet it's been reflected in transfer policy. The last big signing was Alexis Sanchez. And there are probably 5 top class players at United in theory. We're not seeing the reality at the moment. I spoke to Brian McClare, who's a bright man. And he said Ed Woodward has always wanted this sporting director position. I think Ed Woodward is very, very good at bringing money into the club. He's got a lot of qualities. He's very amenable. I don't think he did any fresh briefings last week. I saw the Guardian story. I know that United fans were saying this has just come straight out of Ed Woodward. The briefings are not good, but then when your manager's sitting there and being so negative, I would be tempted to put the club's version of events too. And they do have a version of events. Victor Lindelof and Eric Bailly were signed by Jose Mourinho. They cost £30 million each. The club could argue, and have done, that they have backed their manager. This isn't clear cut. This isn't Mourinho has been an absolute failure here, or Woodward has been a complete failure here. There's got to be collective responsibility. And it's unedifying when you're seeing different parts of the club, including Paul Pogba, sending out different messages. There doesn't appear to be unity here. You once had the axis of power between Ferguson and David Gill, where they might fight like cats and dogs in private, but publicly they were unified and they set the tone. And there's 3 different tones being set here coming out of Manchester United, and that is not good. And does Ed Woodward, would he know who the best left back is in Portugal, like a real sporting director would? I'm not convinced that he would. He takes advice in from lots of different people, and he weighs up that advice from different people. But if you look at Bagirstein at Manchester City, I saw him in Girona on Sunday night. He's doing a completely different job to what Ed Woodward is doing, and he's doing it well.
So there were some names linked with that sporting director position. Is appointing a sporting director now, is that the red rag to a bull that people assume it would be to Jose Mourinho? Like, is there a bit of constructive dismissal going on if they make that appointment? Is there a way to work this out basically and find an intermediary who sits and says, look, Jose, we will get you a new centre back, but you need to give us better examples than the ones that you've already brought us, and you need to coach the players that you already have and make them better players, so that if we do invest 50 million, we understand that we're going to get somebody who you're going to turn into a better player, somebody who has the credibility to sit across from Mourinho and have that conversation with him.
Yeah, that is likely to be the person that's needed, because if you leave it up to Mourinho, he'll just sign Fabio Contrao every single year for the next 5 years, and a team of 29-year-olds who fit the Mourinho type of player. I've seen the names linked with it. I looked into them. I don't think there's anything beyond the Monchi was good at Sevilla and would be good fit for this. I wrote the story originally in December last year. I can remember getting a tip-off on the way to Bâle and checking it out, and the title of the job then was Director of Football Operations. It had no influence in transfer making. It was just to reflect the increasing role at a growing football club like Manchester United. That has since changed. They're now looking at a proper sporting director. And that person would need to work very closely with Woodward and Mourinho, and would need to have the power to push back, as you say, against Mourinho and say, no, the left back at Bâle is better than the one you're suggesting in Porto. And I think that would be welcomed if the person was able to do that job. But, United fans are also clutching at straws there. They've never had that model in the club's entire history. They're just worried that football decisions are being made not by football men, but by former bankers.
Just one last quick one, Andy, just in terms of that press conference last night, which is obviously going to go down in infamy, and also the Jeff Shreves interview on Sky Sports afterwards, where he said that Manchester United fans don't read newspapers, they don't watch television or anything like that. The obvious comparison straight away was with Donald Trump's media dealings. Is this the first time we've seen this from Jose Mourinho, or kind of more appropriately, is this the most intense sort of media paranoia we've seen from Jose Mourinho?
Well, he's wrong, because Manchester United fans are avid consumers of the media, and that is why Manchester United stories often come out top of the most popular stories across publications. It's why I'm speaking to you right now at short notice. It's why when I opened my emails an hour ago, I've got 6 different requests for articles that I'm not going to be able to write. If I was writing about Rochdale, I doubt there would be the same demand there. The fans do read what's going on because it keeps me in a full-time living. They absolutely do. And what Mourinho's point might be is that some of the tabloid press might take a line and spin it, or go very tabloid on it. And there might be a counter-argument to that. And Jose Mourinho has not always been putting his side of the argument across. But he has had time to do that. He's had time pre-season to say, even to put the media as the enemy, and to say, the fans need to be with me, we will get it right. It's going to take some time. We've got a big gap to close here. We've got some problems here. And he chose not to do that. He chose to truncate his press conferences just to say, no. And he set the mood going into this season. And it was too late when, a few days after the Leicester game, he did a few interviews where he said, everything's great, Paul Pogba's been fantastic, everything's wonderful here. It was too late because fans just didn't buy it.
Andy, we'll let you go and write some of those articles. Thanks a million for making the time for us this morning, and I'm sorry for your troubles.
I've got no troubles. This is it's not a real issue. Thanks for having me.
Good luck, Andy. Thanks a million. United We Stand is the organisation. Obviously, it's much more than a fanzine these days.